Between 1973 and 1977, the Church of Scientology orchestrated what remains the largest known infiltration of the United States government. Codenamed Operation Snow White, this covert campaign was designed to purge unfavorable records about the church and its founder, L. Ron Hubbard, from government archives. The operation involved thousands of agents, elaborate cover stories, and systematic theft of classified documents. It culminated in a dramatic FBI raid in 1977 that exposed the scale of the conspiracy and led to the conviction of 11 high-ranking Scientology officials, including Mary Sue Hubbard, the wife of the church's founder. Yet Operation Snow White was only one chapter in a broader pattern of clandestine and illegal activities carried out by the Church of Scientology and its leadership. Actions that reveal a deeply entrenched culture of surveillance, manipulation, and institutional sabotage. The origins of Operation Snow White can be traced to Hubbard's growing paranoia and hostility toward government agencies. By the early 1970s, the Church of Scientology was under scrutiny from multiple fronts. The IRS was investigating its tax-exempt status, the FDA had raided its offices over medical claims related to its e-meter devices, and foreign governments were increasingly skeptical of its operations. Hubbard believed that government files contained false and defamatory information that threatened the Church's legitimacy and his personal freedom. In response, he authorized a sweeping plan to infiltrate and neutralize these threats. The operation was carried out by the Guardian's Office, GO, a powerful internal intelligence agency within the church established by Hubbard in 1966. The GO's mandate was to protect Scientology from perceived enemies, both internal and external, under the leadership of Mary Sue Hubbard. The GO developed a series of sub-programs known as Snow White Operating Targets, SWOTS, each aimed at specific government agencies and foreign embassies. The goal was to identify and eliminate any negative records about Scientology, its founder, or its affiliated organizations. Scientology operatives infiltrated more than 130 government offices, including the IRS, the Department of Justice, and even the offices of foreign They posed as clerks, secretaries, and interns, gaining access to sensitive files and photocopying thousands of documents. In some cases, they broke into offices after hours, planted listening devices, and stole entire filing cabinets. The operation was global in scope, with agents active in more than 30 countries. At its peak, Operation Snow White employed up to 5,000 covert operatives, making it one of the most extensive domestic espionage efforts ever undertaken by a non-state actor. The operation remained undetected for several years, thanks to the church's strict internal discipline and elaborate cover mechanisms. However, in 1976, a Scientology operative was caught using forged credentials to enter a government building. This incident triggered a broader investigation, culminating in a massive FBI raid on Scientology offices in Los Angeles and Washington, D.C. On July 8, 1977, agents seized over 20,000 documents, revealing the full extent of the conspiracy. The evidence included detailed plans for infiltration, records of stolen materials, and internal memos discussing sabotage and harassment of perceived enemies. The fallout was swift and severe. 11 senior members of the Guardian's Office were indicted and later convicted on charges including burglary, obstruction of justice, and theft of government property. Operation Snow White was not an isolated incident. It was part of a broader pattern of illegal and unethical behavior by the Church of Scientology and its leadership. One of the most notorious examples is Operation Freakout, a campaign launched in the mid-1970s to silence journalist Paulette Cooper, author of The Scandal of Scientology. Cooper had written critically about the church, prompting a vicious response. Scientology operatives framed her for bomb threats, stole her psychiatric records, and attempted to have her committed to a mental institution. The campaign was only exposed years later, when internal documents surfaced during legal proceedings. Another secretive and controversial practice was the church's use of fair game, a policy that authorized aggressive actions against individuals deemed enemies of Scientology. According to internal church documents, such individuals could be tricked, sued, lied to, or destroyed. This policy led to widespread harassment of critics, including surveillance, smear campaigns, and frivolous lawsuits. Although the church later claimed to have rescinded the policy, evidence suggests that its principles continued to guide its actions for years. The church also maintained a secretive internal punishment system known as the Rehabilitation Project Force RPF. Members who were deemed disobedient or problematic were assigned to the art, where they endured grueling physical labor, isolation, and psychological conditioning. The program operated in a quasi-military fashion with strict rules and minimal oversight. Former members have described it as a form of coercive control designed to break down resistance and enforce loyalty. In the 1980s and 1990s, the church faced a series of legal battles and public controversies. It was accused of tax evasion, fraud, and obstruction of justice. Despite these controversies, the Church of Scientology has managed to maintain its legal status and expand its global presence. It has invested heavily in public relations, legal defense, and lobbying efforts. The Church's Office of Special Affairs, which replaced the Guardian's office in the 1980s, continues to monitor critics and defend the Church's interests. Internal documents suggest that the OSA has inherited many of the tactics used during Operation Snow White, including surveillance, infiltration, and information control. The Church's relationship with the IRS is another area shrouded in secrecy. After years of litigation and lobbying, the IRS granted Scientology tax-exempt status in 1993. The decision was controversial, given the Church's history of illegal activity and its aggressive tactics against the agency. Some critics have alleged that the IRS was pressured into the decision, citing the Church's extensive legal campaign and its ability to mobilize members for protests and letter-writing campaigns. The full details of the agreement remain classified, fueling speculation about the concessions made by the government. The legacy of Operation Snow White is complex. On one hand, it exposed a vast and illegal conspiracy that undermined public trust in the Church of Scientology. On the other, it demonstrated the Church's capacity for organization, discipline, and strategic planning. The operation was meticulously executed, with clear objectives and a sophisticated command structure. It revealed a worldview in which external scrutiny was seen as existential threat, and secrecy was paramount. The Church's response to criticism continues to reflect this mindset. It has developed a robust legal apparatus to defend itself against lawsuits and investigations. It has also cultivated relationships with celebrities and public figures to enhance its image. Yet beneath the surface, the same mechanisms of control and retaliation persist. Whistleblowers and defectors continue to report harassment, surveillance, and intimidation. Journalists and researchers face legal threats and smear campaigns. The Church's internal documents, when they surface, often reveal a stark contrast between its public messaging and its private operations. Understanding the secrets of Operation Snow White requires more than recounting its facts. It demands an examination of the culture that produced a culture rooted in paranoia, absolutism, and a belief in the righteousness of its cause. Ron Hubbard's writings emphasize the need to protect Scientology at all costs, framing critics as enemies of humanity. This ideological foundation justified extreme measures and created an environment where illegal actions were not only tolerated but encouraged. The operation also raises broader questions about the limits of religious freedom and the accountability of powerful organizations. Scientology has long positioned itself as a persecuted minority, invoking constitutional protections to shield its practices. Yet its actions, particularly those revealed in Operation Snow White, the boundaries between religious expression and criminal conspiracy. The case underscores the need for vigilant oversight and the importance of transparency in institutions that wield significant influence. In the decades since the FBI raid, the Church of Scientology has sought to rebrand itself. It has launched humanitarian initiatives, opened new centers, and emphasized its commitment to spiritual growth. But the shadow of Operation Snow White remains. It is a reminder of what can happen when ideology overrides ethics and when secrecy becomes a tool of domination. The operation was not merely a scandal, it was a window into the inner workings of an organization that has long operated at the margins of legality and legitimacy. The story of Operation Snow White is not over. Documents continue to emerge, whistleblowers continue to speak, and researchers continue to investigate. Each revelation adds to a portrait of an organization that has mastered the art of concealment and confrontation. The operation may have ended in 1977, but its legacy endures in the tactics of the Office of Special Affairs, in the culture of surveillance, and in the ongoing struggle between truth and power.